Black Lives Matter. Hundreds of people have sent hate mail to Hollywood Insider and my personal email, telling us how wrong we are to support this movement. No point in discussing the content of those hate mail. I'm sure you can guess. I could fear, cower, and be neutral. Perhaps for the sake of my media network, its investors and profits, I could remain silent and be on the side of the tormentor. Or I can make it clear. So I decided that I needed to be clearer. Here it is. I, Britton Ambrose, and my media network Hollywood Insider, along with my philanthropic foundation Humans of Our World, fully, unequivocally, and wholeheartedly stand with the Black Lives Matter movement and revolution to better our world. Full stop. No explanation needed. This is in the memory of George Floyd. George, wherever you are, I hope you know that your name is vibrating throughout the world. You have changed our world for the better. Black Lives Matter. Full stop. No explanation required. Police reform now. This is your host, Britton Ambrose. Today, the message I'm about to bring to you is a very important one. I speak to you as both Editor-in-Chief and CEO of Hollywood Insider. Hollywood Insider fully supports Black Lives Matter. Full stop. No explanation required. The article that I'm about to talk about was published on Hollywood Insider on March 9th, 2020. To any of those people that are attacking Hollywood Insider for supporting Black Lives Matter, just know that if you go to our mission statement page or our values page, you will read that standing up against human rights violations and standing up against atrocities is exactly what Hollywood Insider is about. So your surprise and shock at our stance for Black Lives Matter confuses me. Hollywood Insider fully focuses on substance and meaningful entertainment, and we are against gossip and scandal. We also combine entertainment, education, and philanthropy. We care as much about the large mass voices and communities as much as we do about small communities and individuals and minorities. These are statements that are written on our values page. Hollywood Insider utilize media to better our world. So anyone out there feigning shock that Hollywood Insider stands with Black Lives Matter is confusing to me, since our entire media network is about bettering our world, is about activism, is about humanitarianism through entertainment. My reporters have been covering the protests in over 25 cities in USA every single day. What is happening, what has happened for hundreds of years against the black community is entirely wrong. No one can question that. Let me get to the point here. The point today is a specific person who stood up against perpetrators in the 1950s. I learnt about Claudette Colvin, who is the subject of our article, while I was in my teens. Immediately, as soon as I heard this 15-year-old girl's story, I remember thinking, why did I not hear about this before? Because clearly Rosa Parks, who everyone knows about, was inspired by Claudette Colvin. So why is it that 15-year-old Claudette Colvin, who refused to get up from her seat on the bus, was never talked about? Why haven't we heard about her? I thought it was complete. Rosa Parks deserves complete attention. Yes, so does Claudette Colvin. There is space for more than one black hero on the stage. There is space for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the many other black heroes. Hence, I made a promise that someday I will remind the world about Claudette Colvin. Okay, as simple as that. Claudette Colvin's story is a very personal one to me. I was so touched by her story, which I'm going to read for you in a little while. As soon as I became the editor-in-chief and CEO of Hollywood Insider, I knew that at some point, I'm going to talk about Claudette Colvin. So that's when I teamed up with one of my writers, and I told one of my writers, hey, do you know who Claudette Colvin is? She said no. That's when I said to her, can you research about her? And I will tell you about her. Also, and I would like you to write an article on Claudette Colvin and tell the world about her. Along with being a CEO and editor-in-chief of Hollywood Insider, I am also a humanitarian, as I started my philanthropic foundation, Humans of Our World, at the age of 19. So the reason I tell you this is to let you know that I am an emotionally sensitive person. I've waited quite a few days to record this article because I was very emotional about it several days ago. Even now, I find it hard to read this article. So if you hear me pausing, me breaking, or a break in my voice, please bear with me. You'll find out why Claudette Colvin is a hero that we all deserve to respect. Or rather, that we all should respect. So here it goes. Let's start. Again, while saying all this, let me also repeat. Peaceful protest is what I believe in. My reporters have been covering these protests that have been peaceful protests. I have been covering personally. I cannot tell my reporters to go and cover these protests until I go myself. So I have been going myself to cover these protests as well. I have seen them be peaceful. I also believe in non-violence. Let's start. Today's article is titled Unsung Heroes Series. We refuse to forget Claudette Colvin, age 15, whose refusal to stand up inspired Rosa Parks' protest. And the writer I had submitted this task to, her name is Carrie Fishbane.
I began my story by, like all stories, you say, once upon a time.
Who is Claudette Colvin? No idea? Bring this hero back to our history books. As a part of Hollywood Insider's Unsung Heroes series, it is important for us to remember, appreciate, and praise the heroes and make sure they are never forgotten. In 1955, a young black woman refused to give up her seat on the bus to accommodate a white woman and in the process jump-started the Montgomery bus boycott. And no, it wasn't Rosa Parks. Claudette Colvin was the inspiration for Parks' heroic stand. Yet Parks is the name we are taught in school. Parks became an icon representing the civil rights movement as a whole, while Colvin faded into obscurity. As we move on from Black History Month, let's not forget the name of the young girl who inspired the movement.
Me, Claudette Colvin.
International Women's Day is today, and Claudette Colvin is in our minds stronger than ever. In fact, with the Black Lives Matter movement going on at the moment, I'm sure Claudette is watching and smiling from her home. Hero Claudette's March 2nd, 1955 heroic courageous act is the one that inspired Hero Rosa's December 1, 1955 heroic courageous act. Rosa is important, and so is Claudette. I dare you to ask around this important question, do you know who Claudette Colvin is? The answer will probably be a no. It's a shame that little girls don't usually hear the name Claudette Colvin in schools. Her story is one that proves that young people can make a difference in the world.
I could not move because history had me glued to the seat.
History is not made without a little bit of defiance, and too often kids are told that they don't have a voice. Sit down and wait until you're older. Colvin reminded us that change needs to be made now, and who better to point it out than the people who will inhabit the future.
So I said, well, it's my time, right? To say no.
The leap of faith that would change the course of history. In 1955, Claudette Colvin was 15 and a high school freshman. She was in an all-black, separate but equal high school. She was a member of the NAACP Youth Council. According to Colvin, in an interview with NPR, she was learning about black leaders in school like Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth. Her classes discussed how oppression affected the daily life of a black person, how they couldn't sit at a lunch counter with white people or use the same bathroom as them. They couldn't try on clothes at a store or use the dressing rooms, and were required to draw a diagram of their feet size to buy shoes.
Do you think a white person would try on a pair of shoes that a black person have taken their feet out of?
Colvin says she still remembers that fateful day.
I had on a light blue sweater and a dark blue skirt. I'll never forget that.
She was sitting on a bus with her friends from school in the colored section. A white lady got on and asked that Colvin and her friends move so that she could sit. Colvin remembers she couldn't sit in the same row as us because that would mean we were as good as her. Colvin's friends complied, but she stayed put. As Colvin's classmate Annie Larkins Price recalled, she decided on that day she wasn't going to move. She had been yelling, "It's my constitutional right."
Harriet Tubman was pushing me down on one shoulder, and Sojourner Truth was pushing me down on the other shoulder.
This young black teenage girl was then publicly humiliated as the law allowed for her to be arrested and then pushed off the bus. Remember, this was a 15-year-old girl. Colvin retells the story. "I kept saying, he has no civil right. This is my constitutional right. You have no right to do this." And I just kept blabbing things out and I never stopped. That was worse than stealing, talking back to a white person. The 15-year-old schoolgirl, Claudette Colvin's conviction, stated that she disturbed peace, violated the segregation law, and assault. Price reminds, there was no assault. She then became friends with then Secretary of the Montgomery Chapter, NAACP Rosa Parks, who had found out what Colvin had done through letters written to the organization about her bravery. Like I mentioned above, Claudette's actions caused a domino effect, which inspired Rosa's actions several months later. Rosa Parks became the face of the bus boycott, while Claudette Colvin was left out of the history books. 9 months later, the Montgomery NAACP started a chapter-wide bus boycott. They needed someone to be the face of the boycott. Claudette had unfortunately just become pregnant, and on top of that, the NAACP thought she was too young to lead a movement. So instead, they decided to use the lighter-skinned Rosa Parks to represent the boycott. They figured that it would be easier for white people to sympathize with her.
Oh, I was just tired. Aren't I not threatening white people? And then white people were like, oh, she's just tired.
Nobody should have anything against what Parks did. Society is more to blame for Parks getting all the credit than Parks herself. It was a marketing move by the NAACP. The rather conservative town of Montgomery would not have accepted a radical social change spearheaded by a dark, black, pregnant teenager. So Colvin was rewarded only with a night in jail, an expulsion from school because of a pregnancy. Browder vs. Gale, the last stand against bus segregation. Browder vs. Gale was a court case filed by black community leaders in December of 1955 on the grounds that bus segregation was unconstitutional. Colvin, along with 4 other women who were arrested for defying bus segregation, were plaintiffs in the lawsuit. The women were represented by civil rights attorney Fred Gray, but after discovering that Colvin was pregnant, Gray dropped the case. Still, the women pushed on, and on June 5, 1956, the judges determined that state and local laws requiring bus segregation were unconstitutional, and it was declared illegal in the state of Alabama. The case went as far as the Supreme Court, which upheld their ruling on December 17, 1956, with Claudette being the last witness to testify.
Segregation is unconstitutional.
A few days later, Claudette's refusal to give up her seat had granted human rights and respect to all black residents of Alabama. There is power in speaking up, or in this case, refusing to stand up, or sitting down. This 15-year-old girl stood up against a law that had oppressed hundreds of thousands of people, in fact, our society and humanity as a whole. The editor-in-chief of Hollywood Insider, Burton Ambrose, is also the creator of the Unsung Heroes series, and he remarks, remember, this is an article that my writer had written and I had provided a statement, hence why I'm reading out the part which is the statement that I had provided in support of Claudette Colvin and Black Lives Matter. So here it is. This is my statement. As Burton Ambrose, Claudette proves that speaking up with courage and bravery can change our entire world for the better. I am a huge believer in standing up against injustice and not staying silent. To me, speaking up is the only way. None of us have any excuses. She was 15, in the South in the 50s. And yet, enough said. Her heroism is something that should be spoken about over and over again. Courage is contagious. This was a David versus Goliath battle, a Claudette versus unjust, cruel, oppressive, and man-made legal system battle. And I am glad Claudette won, just like David did. Claudette, I know you're proud of the Black Lives Matter movement. I applaud you. Thank you for helping me make Hollywood Insider better by including your story. Claudette paved the way for a Rosa to happen. Rosa paved the way for an Oprah to happen. Oprah paved the way for a Malala Yousafzai to happen. Malala paved the way for Greta Thunberg to happen. Claudette also paved the way for Black Lives Matter to happen. The Song of Heroes plays on. Rosa deserves all the adulation and respect we can muster. And so does Claudette Colvin. There is space in pages and pedestals for more than one hero. Because of you, the song of equal rights has played on. You are one of the greatest heroes for the United States of America and the world as a whole.
You are certainly a hero to me.
I hope our Unsung Heroes series inspires a lot more heroes of tomorrow. The world needs you all, wherever you are.
I started my foundation Humans of Our World when I was 19 because I believe in the power of our people across all borders, physical, mental, and political, united, standing up for humanity. That was a way I stood up against oppression, those that affected me as well as those that affected others, through empathy. When it came to people, my mother taught me to care only about 3 factors, and those are their absolute loyalty, size of their heart, and compassion, and everything else does not matter. She taught me, and I quote her, "It is not about reciting religious verses. If you have one piece of cookie left, share that with everyone around you. That is the church. That is God. That is love." That was her quote. I have seen the power of standing up and speaking out with my own actions, as well as being on the receiving end with my brother Milan standing up for my mom, sister, and I. He protected our family. And we were better because of it. There is power in speaking up and standing up, so I always do. My media network, Hollywood Insider, has all the space needed for all the heroes all over the world, in every color and design. Claudette, I hope to meet you someday, and I look forward to being starstruck. Black heroes matter. Black lives matter.
That was the end of my statement. Claudette Colvin is a tragically
Unrecognized hero of the civil rights movement.
but it's not too late for those of us in modern day to share her story and honor her. Bring this unsung hero back into the history books. We love, respect, and honor you, Claudette Colvin. Thank you for being the bravest.
In that instance, she showed how young people can truly change the world.
Once again, ask people who Claudette Colvin is. If they don't know, then tell them what you have learned today. Tell everyone Rosa Parks is a hero. Tell everyone Claudette Colvin is a hero. Hollywood Insider has all the space needed for all the heroes all over the world.
Black heroes matter. Black lives matter.